He said while they were still on the phone. Manny Pacquiao asked with a tired but pointed tone, "Did you see those scorecards? Does anyone really believe they got it right?" It wasn't just disappointment in his voice. It was confusion, frustration, and that quiet sting of betrayal. After putting on what many felt was a masterclass in technical boxing, he couldn't wrap his head around how the judges saw it differently. When the final bell rang, the energy in the arena was electric. People stood, clapping, cheering, convinced they just watched a legend turn back the clock. But then came the announcement, one that sucked the air right out of the building. A draw. Manny didn't need to say more. His face said it all. Disbelief, disbelief, disbelief. Stephen A. Smith didn't tiptoe around the issue. As soon as the fight ended, he leaned back in his chair and let it fly. "This is a travesty," he said, practically spitting the words. He wasn't interested in staying neutral or offering both sides of a story. Not tonight. Stephen A. watched every round with the eye of a seasoned sports analyst, and what he saw wasn't a 50-50 fight. He saw Manny controlling the pace, landing cleaner shots, and dictating the action. "If you can look me in the eye and tell me Barrios deserved that draw, then you weren't watching the same fight," he declared on air. It wasn't just criticism, it was an indictment of a judging system that once again left fans shaking their heads. Stephen A. wasn't trying to be dramatic for the sake of views. This wasn't about clickbait or going viral. This was about the integrity of boxing. "Everyone has opinions," he said. "But some opinions can't stand up when facts are on the table." He talked about how Manny's footwork looked as sharp as it had a decade ago, how his combinations weren't just flashy, they were precise. Manny made Barrios look hesitant. He kept him guessing. He never let him get comfortable. To Stephen A., the idea that this performance didn't amount to a win was borderline insulting. It wasn't just that Manny looked good, it was that he looked better than his opponent. That should have been enough. Then there was Manny's own assessment. He didn't need to rant. He didn't need to scream. All he said was, "I thought I won. I won by decision." And in that simple statement, there was so much weight. This was a fighter who had nothing left to prove. A fighter who had given more to the sport than most could even dream. And still, after 12 rounds of high-level action, he was left standing under those bright lights without a definitive victory. Yes, Barrios came in with the belt. Yes, he was younger, fresher. But none of that mattered once the fight started. What mattered was what happened in those 12 rounds. And in those rounds, Manny Pacquiao delivered. Stephen A. was clear about one thing. This wasn't about bias or hero worship. This was about justice. When the world is watching, when careers are being defined, judges need to be on point. One bad scorecard doesn't just ruin a night. It rewrites a fighter's legacy. It shifts future opportunities. It alters the narrative. Fighters like Pacquiao don't get many more nights like this. And when he puts everything on the line, his name, his body, his legacy, he deserves a decision that reflects reality, not confusion. Smith stressed that we've seen too many fights where politics or incompetence ruins the moment. And tonight felt like another one. In the background, Pacquiao's brother sat at the broadcast table, shell-shocked. The cameras caught him just after the announcement. His face frozen, his hand half covering his mouth, as if hoping the words might change if he didn't breathe too loudly. For the family, this wasn't just about sport. It was about vindication. It was about one last great moment to crown a storied career. And instead, they were left with the dull ache of what could have been. Around them, fans were murmuring, confused, upset. Some turned away from the screen. Some kept checking the punch stats, trying to make sense of what just happened. But no matter how you sliced it, something didn't add up. Elsewhere, young rising fighters were already reacting. Carmel Mahdi, a sharp prospect who had looked up to Pacquiao since childhood, posted almost instantly, "That was Manny's fight." Clear as day. His words echoed the sentiments of thousands, maybe millions. But what cut deeper was what followed. No rematch talk. No belt. Nothing. The fight had ended, but the pain had just begun. Manny's final act was supposed to be his triumph. Instead, it became another chapter in boxing's long history of misjudged greatness. The sport had robbed one of its purest warriors again. And this time, everyone saw it happen live. In the days that followed, social media turned into a storm of outrage and support. Clips of the fight circulated everywhere, Slow-motion shots of Manny's jab snapping Barrios' head back, flurries that had the crowd on their feet, and clean footwork that kept Barrios chasing shadows. Hashtags like #MannyWon and #FixBoxing trended worldwide. Analysts, former fighters, and fans all added their voices to the chorus. Everyone had a theory. Some blamed the judges' incompetence. Others hinted at something more sinister, like favoritism for the younger fighter or protection of the belt holder. But the through line was always the same. Manny deserved better. Even boxing legends spoke out. Bernard Hopkins, who rarely inserts himself into judging controversies, said, "If that's a draw, then we've lost what boxing is supposed to be about." Roy Jones Jr. echoed that sentiment, noting how Pacquiao fought like a man with something to prove and proved it. These weren't just throwaway comments. These were words from fighters who understood the grind, who'd been in those same 12-round wars and knew what it looked like when someone dominated the ring. Their words added fuel to a fire already burning across the boxing world, a fire demanding reform, clarity, and accountability. Manny, however, didn't rage. He didn't curse. He didn't fall apart. He remained graceful, calm, even stoic. In his post-fight interview, he simply smiled and thanked the fans. "I came here to do what I love. I gave everything in the ring." It was classic Pacquiao, dignified, humble, and deeply human. But beneath the surface, you could see it in his eyes. The weariness, the disappointment, the flicker of something unspoken. Maybe it was the realization that no matter how great you are, boxing doesn't always give you the ending you deserve. What made it even more heartbreaking was how much Manny had risked for this fight. At his age, he didn't need to step back into the ring. He could have stayed retired, admired, untouched by any further controversy. But he returned not for money or fame, but for legacy, for one last dance with greatness. And he didn't just show up, he showed out. He brought back flashes of the old speed, the uncanny timing, the relentless pressure that once defined him. That's what made the final verdict feel like a slap in the face, not just to him, but to everyone who believed greatness should be rewarded.